Hi, look, Chris Johnson again, just talking about another issue of our urban ideas. This one is about innovative apartments. There's been a lot of concern in Sydney. There's too much boring development. They all look the same, all these apartments. Can we get something more interesting? And I think we can. So what we've done in this document, just to open it up, is to show that we've had two speakers who represent, one from local government. This is John Faker, the Mayor of Burwood, and one from the New South Wales Government Architects, Olivia Hyde. Olivia talked about the better placed and the better designed documents that have been produced by the Government Architects Office. And John Faker pointed out that he wants more design that's interesting and dynamic in Burwood. There's an image here of a really uninteresting design in Burwood that was nothing to do with council, but everyone believes we've got to do better than this. So to open up some of the interesting designs that have actually occurred, I just want to start looking at work by a Dutch architectural firm called MVRDV. A very interesting firm. They're really renowned for their innovation, and I'm going to look at a number of these buildings. So the first one, which sort of floats in the water, it's quite an amazing sort of building in Amsterdam called Silodam, and you can see that the architects have got a number of different colours as it moves up into its side. The next one is called Folie Riche in Montpellier in France, well outside Paris, but and this is a series of individual buildings stacked on top of each other that gives a much more human feeling to the building. The next one is Wazoco, Amsterdam in the Netherlands as well. This is a building where the balconies are all cantilevered out from the building. It's for aged people, and balconies are quite important spaces for people to live in, but the balconies become quite a feature of different coloured glasses and big cantilevers and making it something special. But the really interesting one in a way is the Market Hall in Rotterdam that they've designed. This is a building that wraps up and over a big market space. So it contains the markets underneath, but in fact it is an apartment building. So you can see in this other image here, if you look at it from the outside, it is just a series of apartments that wrap up and over and contain this incredible space down below. A number of others I'll quickly show. There's one called Valley in Amsterdam, a very fragmented building that looks quite interesting. There's one also in Amsterdam called Westerdock, very horizontal layers of buildings as it goes through. And one in Vancouver, Canada, that's just covered in greenery, an incredible sort of building. So this is some of the work of MVRDV, and I think they represent an exciting new way to do things. Another group that I think is very good at doing innovative apartments is a Melbourne firm called ARM, Ashton Raggett McDougall, and they've done some very interesting buildings. This building here is called the Barrack Building in Melbourne. If you look across the buildings of Melbourne, you'll see that they've quite cleverly managed the profile of the balconies to create a face in the building. The face is actually William Barrack, who's an Aboriginal man who is very much located or connected in early days to Melbourne. And the images, as you zoom in and look at this, sort of incredibly make the building become like a billboard. Another one that they've done in Melbourne is called The Face, and you'll see that the profile as it goes through has got a nose and a mouth and things. Another incredible building is Orbis in Melbourne, with this gold-coloured curving shapes on the outside of the building, giving it a very sculptural appearance. In fact, the architects talk about it as being a little bit like the work of various artists that they really respect. And they still managed to get the openings for all the balconies happening within the building. So these are some other really innovative approaches. But in Sydney there are some very interesting buildings as well. One approach is where greenery is incorporated into buildings. This is the very well-known One Central Park building in Sydney, by Fraser's and Sekisui House, the developers, and Jean Nouvel is the architect. But the building is covered in greenery, and it's just incredible the way greenery can change the look of a building. There's another one, Sydney Park by HPG, again dripping with greenery, an incredible sort of connection to the parklands next door to it. And some apartments in Alexandria by the Crown Group with trees growing up over the building and trying to soften it. And the last approach I just want to show is about curved buildings. So these are a series of curved buildings that different architects in Sydney have produced. So this one's called Andara, the Cloud by Lend-Lease. Richard Francis Jones is the architect, a flowing, curving building which becomes much more interesting than rectangular ones. And the Crown Group have done some very interesting buildings, in this case with an architect called Koichi Takada. The Arc by the Crown Group with these big rolling shapes going up to create interesting shapes to the building. And Infinity out at Green Square, a bit like a roller coaster going up and down and all over the top of a metro rail station. So the call to arms here is to be innovative, to try and do things differently, to try and just get a bit of excitement back into apartment buildings.